Hi everyone, welcome back to Wednesdays with Wynton. My name is Madeline Gardner. I am the communications manager here at Jazz Lincoln Center, and thanks for joining us for another Wednesdays with Wynton. Wynton will be joining us in just 1 second for a casual little Q&A here, and today we have a very special edition of Wednesdays with Wynton as we are in the middle of our virtual international, essentially Ellington High School Jazz Band Festival. Try saying that 5 times fast. It started on Monday and we keep on going till Friday. We have 12 virtual events showcasing 23 incredible big bands from around the world. So we hope you can tune in. You can find that and more in the schedule by going to jazz.org/EE25. So without further ado, Wynton will be joining us in just a moment. And while we are waiting for him, if you want to comment where you're tuning in from, and maybe your favorite Duke Ellington song while we wait for Wynton, who'll be joining us in just a moment. Hi, Wynton.
Okay, what we talking about, Maddie? How you feeling?
I'm feeling excited about Essentially Ellington. I've been loving tuning into all these events. They're fantastic.
Okay. Oh, I can't wait. Well, I listened to the bands already, so it's been fantastic. It's been fantastic listening to everybody, hearing what they're doing, teaching classes, meeting alumni, talking to past students, hearing them play, what they're doing. It's really unbelievable. It's an unbelievable community of people.
And something that's been interesting is as we've been having these sessions with Skane So Maine, you had a bunch of really great alumni on there. Even, alumni tuning in. We're seeing comments on Facebook and the live stream of all the alumni kind of tuning in and talking to each other. And we've heard from a lot of the students and alumni about how they learned about Duke while participating in Essentially Ellington. And I'm wondering, when was the first time do you remember learning about the great Duke Ellington?
Well, my father listened to Duke, so I grew up with Duke, but I was really ignorant of him, believe it or not. I mean, in the 70s, when I grew up, we didn't listen to big band music. So I can remember I was at Stanley Crouch's house, a fantastic writer in New York. I was 18. I had already moved from New Orleans. I was 17 or 18, and he showed me a Smithsonian collection with Gunther Schuler's name on it. And I had gone to Tanglewood that summer when I was 17, because Gunther Schuler was the guy that auditioned me. And when I saw his name, I read his notes, and he was talking about Duke. And now I had already gone to the camp and met him, and he auditioned me. I had no idea who he was. I hadn't read any of his books. And I put on the recording, and it had things like Bragging and Brass. And I really did not know that jazz had that type of sophisticated writing, because in the 70s, if you played in a jazz band, you were mainly playing funk. I mean, we played some jazz tunes, because of my father, but that's not really what we wanted to play. And when I heard Duke's music, I was like, man, I had no idea that jazz, big band jazz, had ever been this sophisticated. Well, then I started reading about Duke and listening and studying, and then I knew who he was. I mean, but I remember the first time when in our rehearsal was the first time I actually understood about just how modern and dissonant his music was, but because it sounds so beautiful. And the first jazz band rehearsal of Jazz Lincoln Center Orchestra was members of Duke's original band, who had played with him from 1950 something to 74. Members of Thad Jones Mel Lewis band, they were in their like 40s and early 50s. The Duke members were in their 60s and 70s, and members of my septet, we were in our 20s and early 30s. And when they started playing the music, the older musicians, we were like, ooh.
And of course, the great Joe Temperley.
Well, Joe, you got a guy from Scotland up in there playing, and Joe was so original. And the way they talked to each other and everything was different. They start cussing each other out. It's just the feeling of it. I mean, we were kind of wild too. Now, we didn't mind that, but that helped us to relate to them. But I just think who we had, Willie Cook, we had Norris Turney, we had Britt Woodman, we had Buster Cooper played sometimes. We had Jimmy Woody. We had a lot of great musicians. And I remember we had Jimmy Hamilton, talking to Dave Berger. Dave Berger was our conductor, and he had transcribed a lot of Duke's music and kept that spirit of Duke alive during that time. And I remember the summer before, I was speculating, man, you think we could put together a band with Duke Ellington musicians? So I started naming them just people off of albums. I didn't even know if they were, some of them were still alive. And he sat there, this was the summer of 1986 or 1987, and he was saying, we could get him. We could get him. We could get him. We had Milt Grayson. Oh, we could get him. And I was thinking, man, this guy is crazy. The next summer, we walked into a room, and there was all of those people. Jimmy Hamilton was sitting there, you know. Norris was there, and Britt Woodman was there, and it was unbelievable. Sir Roland Hanna. So it was, you know, it was, and then we had, one year we had Harold Ashby play. Yeah, it was, for us, it was instructional. We had never, just to play at the right volume. We were so used to playing so loud, we always played fusion and loud electronic music monitors. They didn't play at that volume, or just how they would cuss us out about how loud we played. It was like having some of the hippest grandfathers you ever saw in your life. And then the type of love they all had for each other too. And Joe, you know, everybody loved Joe. And then they embraced us too. You know, we had Hurlin and Veal and Ty Williams. They didn't know younger musicians were playing that way. So it was like it was beautiful for all of us. I mean, we learned a lot. My trumpet section had Lou Soloff. I was playing with him, and, you know, Marcus Belgrave, Clark Terry played sometimes. Still, I think of them, and they treated us with so much love. Joe Wilder went on one tour, and Joe just, they were just so much. That's all you could say. So that was the inception of our orchestra. And we try to pass that same feeling down to everybody in essentially Ellington. And what I love was seeing my alumni last night, like Jemani Smith, and when you get to Tatum Greenblatt and Brandon, and it goes on and on. Even the ones we didn't have in there, like Anthony Hurley. We had Philip Norris last night, Erica Von Kleist. The type of love they express to one another is great for me, because that's how we felt when we were playing. Now that didn't mean they weren't gonna cuss us out about playing the music. Right. I remember when we were always late for the bus in the morning. I'm gonna tell y'all one story. We were always late for the bus in the morning. We always had on like gym stuff, and, you know, like we would play. But they always had like their suits or shirts on. Sometimes Norris would have a suit on. They would already be on the bus and they had 2 beverages already. So they were already kind of. So one morning they got tired of us being late. Oh man, we were falling there, me and Veal and Hurlin, laughing and joking and clowning. The old men were very quiet. So we sat down, and it was one of them stood up and said, if you young can't figure out how to be on time, we're going to be on time tomorrow. So we was like,
got it. Yep. Noted.
Yes, sir. You know, so it was a great experience. And even playing the music and learning, and the way they treated us, it was like family. You know, Wycliffe was playing. Britt just loved Wycliffe Gordon's playing. Britt Woodman, he would just say, this boy's one of the greats. He's young, he's one of the greats. And Art Barron was in the band. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Bill Easley played clarinet when Jimmy didn't do it. Everybody was great playing with everybody.
Well, it's definitely clear from, you know, watching Skeins Domain or seeing any of the alumni interact, they feel that same exact way. You really have passed that down. It's almost as if Duke Ellington was one of the founding member of right. JLCO and of so much of what you right. do.
Yeah, well, when you play his music, it makes you be like that. Like in 1999, we played nothing but Duke Ellington the whole year. And Wes Anderson was playing lead out at that time. When we would talk something on the tour, we were all tired one night. He said, well, one thing we know, if something is wrong with the tour, it has absolutely nothing to do with the music. Because every night when you play that music, there's so much humanity and creativity in the music, and it's so much life, so much variety, diversity, intelligence, romance, skepticism, humor. I mean, Duke has so much in this. And when you play a lot of it, it's just, it's an unbelievable contribution. He and Strayhorn. I don't want to leave Billy Strayhorn out either, because Strayhorn right. was, you know, even though he came up under the umbrella of Duke having that fantastic band, Strayhorn also, just the sophistication and what he brought to the organization was unbelievable.
Well, and on that note, speaking of alumni, I actually have several questions I got from some of our EE alumni, and we're going to kick things off that I'm going to ask you on behalf of them. We're going to kick things off with Mr. Isaiah J. Thompson, who was an EE alumni 2013, 2014, Jazz House Kids from Montclair, New Jersey.
Okay.
And this is his question. So, when composing for a small group, in your opinion, what are some of the most essential structural components of a song that the composer can and should write in order to keep the song interesting, besides the inherent interplay that should occur between musicians during improvisation?
Okay, great, and thank you for that question, Isaiah. Yeah, I tease Isaiah from when he was a kid. Whenever I see him, I hug him, and I say, man, just the kind of humanity he has and the honesty that how for real he is about stuff, and his dedication. So I think if you listen to a record we made called The Majesty of the Blues, I put interludes in the songs to try to make them not be the same ABA form. So I take some element of the theme. If you have rhythm, harmony, melody, and texture, those 4 elements. And those 4 elements are like playing fields, planes, if you will. So you want to try to take elements of one plane and put it in one place. So you may have a harmonic progression. So you change the harmonic progression, be the same. Or you keep the texture one way, and then you change the melody, but the harmonic progression is the same. You take the rhythm and you put a different rhythm behind something, but you have the same harmony, same melody. So you get my gist of how I'm saying. You put them up there and you put them in different in different positions of importance. It's like a conversation. One moment I may be talking, the next moment Maddie may be talking, next moment Isaiah may be talking, but we're talking about the same thing. So we're maintaining a conversation from different perspectives. So I think Isaiah, deal with the different perspectives, go into different keys, to have your modulations, change your rhythm. Change your rhythm is always great. And if you listen to longer form pieces like what Duke did in The Tattooed Bride, or you really listen to what Jelly Roll did with the Pearls. The Pearls or Black Bottom Stomp is another great example of getting variety in the ensemble, small group in a short form. Or you listen to Mingus, also has a lot of interesting music changes, forms, meditations on integration. That's a great one for that. And just see how they did it. Another good group to listen to is the Modern Jazz Quartet, because it's a small group, but Mr. Lewis is always changing things up and using the 4 instruments in different ways. So I'm gonna call you after I get off of this and we'll talk about it.
And he's listening right now, so.
I love that's such a great musician. Thank you.
Yes, and we have our next question from Mr. Riley Mulherkar, who was an EE alum from 2008, 2010. And his question is, what is the most common feedback you find yourself giving to bands at EE?
Let's clarify the bottom of the band. The most common feedback I gave this year, and Riley is a judge this year, so I'm glad to have him because he's also a kid that came up in it. And I want to say too about Riley is that I hear him, and now he's 28. So I've been hearing him since he was 13 or 14. But it's very difficult to continue to develop your playing as you get older. You get in your 20s, you develop a style and you just kind of play it. But I have to say, every time I hear him, he is better. With the thing I like that he's been working on in the last year is how to develop his solos, last 2 or 3 years, how to develop his solos thematically. So I hear tremendous improvement in that. And it's important for all of us to realize we're always trying to get better. And when I think about the great Lou Soloff, one of our greatest trumpet players of all times who passed away, or Joe Wilder, or Clark Terry, every time I talked to them, no matter how old I was, there was something they would tell me, man, listen to this. I heard you play on this. May you rest in peace, Sweets Edison. He was always telling me, call me baby boy. Think about this, think about that. So, with Riley, he knows already the answer to these things. But I think for me with the essentially Ellington bands, it is clarify the bottom of the ensemble and know how to play in balance. Like the bottom almost always sounds bad. The bass drum, the bass. How clear is the bass attack? How is the bass? Now, the curious thing is like the relationship of something sweet to something sour. If you put something sweet on your tongue and then you put something sour, that sour is much more sour. Mm-hmm. So swing makes you combine disparate elements. So you got real high-pitched cymbal that has to be on every beat with a real low-pitched bass drum and with a bass. Those two extremes have got to meet and find each other continuously. So I think that's a thing that I want to get on the bands. And another thing is some of the bands don't listen to the music. I relate to that because in high school, I thought it's old-timey music. I was just telling you, I didn't really start listening to Duke till I was 18 or 19. You cannot be good at a style of music you don't listen to. And I noticed even teacher trumpet players, the Haydn trumpet concerto or Hummel or something from the classical period, I would always ask them, can you name 5 pieces of music from the classical period that's not named Haydn Trumpet Concerto? And many times, no. You know, they couldn't name pieces. And I would say, listen to Haydn's music, listen to Mozart's music, listen to Beethoven's music, listen to music of these periods. And I find that to be true.
That's great advice, and thank you, Riley, for that question.
My man.
I have one more question here from one last EE alum, and if anyone, especially if anyone is in here that is any EE alum, please go ahead and comment a question, and we'll try to get to that. So we have a very special one, Kathleen Felder, also known as previously as Kathleen Murray, who has a journey that a lot of the EE alum have, where she participated in 2004 with Westerville South High School. And then she worked on EE as an education assistant from 2013 to 2015. And now she works for the JLCO, touring managing. So, and that's with Skeins Domain, you know, you hear, you know, with Tatum, with a lot of people, once they're, you know, they start with EE and they just kind of, they want to stick with either EE or Jazz Lincoln Center. There's a really great path there. So this question is from her. So she says, you often take a lot of time to greet and connect with fans and young students after concerts, sometimes even giving trumpet lessons. When I first met you, that is something that I always admired, and I do even more so today, knowing how much time it takes. Do you see this aspect of interacting with people changing for you in the time of COVID, post-COVID, if at all?
Yeah, you know, of course, you miss the contact with people or just something and you joking around and you playing with them and you making fun of them. So yeah, I miss that. But now I'm actually on the phone more with people. I see more people than I saw even, well, maybe not on a day-to-day basis, but I miss it. I like being around people. And I always say all of us are different, you know, and it's not a better or worse. If you're the type of person whose personality is you're more internal and you're not that comfortable being around a lot of people, there's nothing wrong with that. But with me, I like being with people, playing with them, joking, clowning. So yeah, I miss it. And this whole period is hard, not playing. You know, it's hard. But I know you better be. I know you and Marion, y'all in down that bass and the drums, y'all got the whole rhythm section covered. Don't forget about that big sound, Kathleen. And you know, we like to, when Jazz Lincoln Center goes on tour, sometimes we Carlos missed a gig or something, we get Kathleen to come up and play, or we get her to come sit in. And we always love, we have Maguette came up and played flute with us too. We love when our staff members come up and play with us. And we love even Todd Stoller's taking my place a couple of times at Young People's Concert or something, playing trumpet. And it's important to keep your instrument going. And for all of our EE alum, if we don't see them, they don't have to be a part of Jazz Lincoln Center, that they bring that spirit, keep the music going, keep playing on their instruments, because there's so many things to do in the world. And education in jazz, it teaches you so many ways to function in the context of people, to be collaborative as a teammate, to use your understanding of collective creativity so that you don't think you're the only person with a solution. So, you know, yeah, of course, I love Kathleen. She's a swing with a big sound. And then she went on to Michigan State and studied with Rodney Whitaker. And you know, Big Money is all about the big sound. That's what he talks about in the swing. So she got that integrity too coming out of him. And thank you for being on this. Marion is a swinger too. Wait till they have some youngsters. They're gonna have a swinging family.
And you know, it's interesting because during Skeins Domain, forgive me, I cannot remember her last name, but Sarah, the alumni, she's talked about how, you know, not only did EE kind of help her as a musician, but outside of that too, you know, kind of, she was saying when younger, being, you know, participating in this as a high school student, a lot of adults look at you as kids, but during the competition, you know, people are give you this respect, and you have this learning journey alongside all these other students and musicians that teach you so much, you know, of what Duke taught, but keep that throughout life as well. You can maybe talk a bit about not only what Duke, you know, teaches in music, but what his music means to life, to a lot of his speeches and his quotes, the bigger picture of life.
Well, Duke had a journey that's public. So from 1925 or 26 to 1974, you have Duke with his recordings, you have him doing interviews, you have him talking, you have him learning things, developing. If you study his life, He traveled all over the world. It was always interesting. I read Music is My Mistress, Duke's book. And I remember the first time I read it, I didn't like it because it was all names of people you never heard of. So I was thinking, man, how Duke write a book and just it's all names of people. Like, I don't know who any of these people are. And he's just one story after another about people. And then the second time I read it, I understood. He was saying it is about people. It's a world filled with people. And if you don't know who these people are, find out who they are. And it's all what impact these people. He believed in people, human beings. Duke loved the human being. He thought the human being was the technology. And the list at the back of just the music he wrote, that's very cleansing to read that. Because for all of whatever else he did, and he did a lot, one thing he did a lot of was all those dots don't get on paper, but with colorful stories. That's a lot of isolated time. So yeah, when you touch his creativity, his music, his life, and learn the ups and downs, his social commentary, his political viewpoints, his this and that, he talked about a lot of things. It is very instructional. It's a blueprint for a life because he traveled a long distance. He didn't start believing one thing and end with the same. He had a lot of nooks and crannies and turns up in there that we can always reach for him and he'll always help us.
He really, and I've been doing a lot of reading of, things he's wrote and his speeches, and it's all really still relevant today. It is kind of, sometimes it's a little too relevant today.
Right.
But
well, it's timeless. And Duke was, of course, needless to say, he was trying to counterstate the minstrel image of Black people. You got to remember what it was like for him. He grew up in a kind of renaissance in Washington, D.C. He was born in 1899. And in D.C., in the 15, 20 years of him being a teenager, he left in his I think in his late he left in his early 20s. But that was a consciousness time. The Howard Theater, they had a lot of stuff going on politically conscious from a Black consciousness standpoint. And Duke came through that understanding. So of course, if you think about D.W. Griffith, Birth of a Nation, and the type of images that were most popular about Black folks in America at that time, all through the 20s and 30s, Dizzy Gillespie said when he saw Duke Ellington is what made him want to be elegant and be dressed a certain way, because most of the time you saw people minstrel showing and after the minstrel show returned in this era, it's important to maintain a kind of sense and understanding that these kind of stereotypes of Black people that are always popular in America, it's something that Duke Ellington counterstated every day of his life. And he was serious about it, and he was attacked for it. So we tend to, because we don't know his history, we don't understand how much there was always a desire to put them back on the plantation and back on this, much like there is now to define people in the ghetto in a certain type of extremely negative, subhuman way and make that stand in for reality. It's not real, it's fake. So it's, if you repeat something enough, it can become real. So people who grew up with these minstrel images that came after in the 1870s and 80s and 90s, you got to remember how long the minstrel era lasted, a long time, from around 1850 to the death of Amos and Andy, let's say in the 1940s, 50s. That was basically like a minstrel era. That's a long time. Let's say to World War II, without serious counterstatement. These images stay around and this kind of vision. And once that vision becomes prevalent, it can even become arrogant in the application of it. It's something. Duke was always counterstating that. Very important. Important to take these stands and realize that you're not always congratulated because you can take a stand against these things.
He did have a very, as you said, his whole career, you can see him talking about it. And you talk a lot about how he had a lot of pushback along the way, and he even talks about critics.
All the time, they hated him. Yeah, they were always, because they want him to be a minstrel. He's too ambitious. He was too this. And they didn't know what the man was writing. I mean, and that stuff is complicated. So here you are sitting up, you got to review a show. You're looking at some Black people. You've been taught that they're subhuman and you want to keep them on a certain plantation, but you like some of his music, but you want it to be like pop songs. You like, are you ever going to go to the man and ask him, what are you doing? No, you're too arrogant to do that. So you just start writing stupidity. And then if you get enough people write stupidity with you, it just lasts forever. And then that stands. And that's how that type of liberal kind of media arrogance and ignorance works too. Don't forget, it's not just coming from one thing. There's always thought that it's just somebody with a Klansman or robe on or something. That's not the reality of it. It's high and low. And you always have like with Duke Ellington, I would always laugh when I would read stuff. I say, there's somebody going to condescend up to Duke Ellington. But Duke, he was embracing of people in the world. At the end of Duke's life, because in the segregated era, Duke was always writing music about my people. And he was always talking about the Afro-American, because he was trying to claim we have a space of dignity, of pride. We have experiences. We have a mythic American experience that deserves to be understood. Duke was making that crystal clear. As we went along and we got into the 60s, into the 70s, when people were willfully segregating, which was the group I was from, with black nationalism, black power, all the things we very strongly believed in, as not being tired of being treated a certain way. We like this, we like that. Duke then turned around and said, the people are my people. And let me tell you, that's the last thing in the world we wanted to hear at that time. We're fighting for our civil rights, man. We've been down there being oppressed by these people. You're talking about the people are my people. But that was what he said. And that is what's in his music, because he always had the long view. Duke is up there. You know, he's out in the stratosphere. He's standing on the moon, looking down on the globe. And he's far ahead of where we were. He may be far ahead of where we are now. He's looking and he's saying, okay. And sometimes it's hard for a person with that type of vision to be accepted by those of us who have a much more myopic vision based on our personal experiences, of which I definitely have to say, when I encountered him, I was a part of that. And I wasn't feeling him the way he talked and all that kind of stuff. It seemed so corny and just overdone, and seemed so kind of apologetic and hid. For my generation, we looked at it a certain way. As I got older, of course, I mean, I started to understand the history of music and develop a much deeper understanding and appreciation of Duke Ellington, his values, and of the value of American art and of the American vernacular. Because if you're a student in our country, you don't really learn any of that. You don't know how to put anything in place.
And could you, and for everyone tuning in right now, we're talking about the great Duke Ellington as we are celebrating our 25th anniversary of essentially Ellington. Could you maybe suggest some places to start if people aren't familiar with Duke, where should they start listening, learning, so the jumping off points?
You know, I think younger people of Far East Suite is good, because they're used to listening to music that has vamps. Vamp is the bass line is repeated and the drum part is always the same. That Far East Suite is great. The New Orleans Suite after that will take you into the kind of feeling of swing. And it's later enough music so you're not dealing with the sound. A good train piece is track 360. You listen to that, you just the Duke's mastery of the rhythm set, of the sounds of the big band. I think the Queen Suite, for anybody with a kind of romantic heart and like intimacy, the Queen Suite is unbelievable. Those who like plays and in the Shakespeare, Such Sweet Thunder's fantastic.
My favorite.
For those who like kind of wild sound of the band live, you have to be able to hear earlier music. That Fargo, North Dakota, that live broadcast, woo, they swinging on that. But it's not studio sound. But I would recommend that after you've kind of gotten into the music with the later music, the sound. Another piece is good that people today kind of would like is Chinoiserie, because of how Harold Ashby is playing. The tenor saxophonist don't. They got a kind of beat that people today who maybe are not used to hearing some swing, they could relate to that.
Thank you so much for that. And a lot of people are saying thank you, and they all agree that that's some of their favorite tracks as well. And before we leave, I want to get to one question that was asked here. Someone said, as a trumpeter, I'm practicing scales, intervals, and long tones. What else should I be working on?
I mean, that's a lot. Your long tone is your fundamentals. Your intervals you do after your long tones, because that teaches you flexibility. Your scales do in all the keys, all major, all minor, all everything. The next thing is learn how to improvise. You know, pick an easy song, a hymn. Take Just a Closer Walk with Thee, and just start playing it. Now, Just a Closer Walk with Thee, the harmonic progression is the same as Happy Birthday. So if you know just a close walk with thee, you also are playing on happy birthday. And just learn how to work your way through this, and also learn the blues. Pick a very simple Duke Ellington C Jam blues, and get you a kind of little simple rhythm track, and just start working with good and easy ideas. You got to be able to improvise. Now that's our birthright.
Mm. Well, you heard it here first. I couldn't agree more. Not that I know much about it, but I love it. Thank you, Wynton, again. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Before I hand it back to Wynton to wrap things up, I want to remind you, I hope we have 2 more days of the first ever international virtual, essentially Ellington High School Jazz Band Festival. It's 12 virtual events showcasing 23 incredible big bands from around the world. Tomorrow, we're kicking things off at 12 p.m. EDT with another Q&A with Wynton and the wonderful EE alumni Alexa Tarantino. So you can head to, and we have a lot more events tomorrow and on Friday. So if you head to jazz.org/EE25, you can see the full schedule and where and how to watch. So Wynton, of course, it's always so great to see you. Thank you for taking some time.
Yeah, great to see you. Once a week, but here we are.
That's right.
You know, fantastic. Just everybody check out EE. We got some fantastic young musicians that we've heard. Our jam session, I was trying to figure out who was in the orchestra and who wasn't. Some of those kids, I'm embarrassed to say it. I called Todd, our engineer, Todd White. Like I said, man, who's playing the alto on this? So check out these young people. They're for real all over the world.
Thanks so much, Wynton. I'll see you next week.
All right now, Maddie.
Bye.
Y'all take care. All right. Bye. Maddie. Yep.